Muted now. No, because I got every available short. All right, welcome everyone. We're excited to have you with us this afternoon. This is the PBIS network session. We do have some people online, so we want to welcome them also. And I do have a microphone that I will be passing around if you're sharing information. Matt's looking a little confuzzled up there, but it's okay. We got this. Uh-oh.
That's normal.
That's normal. It's okay. That's right. We just got to go with it. It is what it is. So again, welcome everybody. We're excited to have you here today. There is going to be a sign in here in just a second. So if you could take your phones out to scan the QR code, make sure you sign in. And then also on the right-hand side, there's going to be a QR code for the note-taking document. But then there's also bit.lys down below if you'd rather type in the websites for those. So please take a minute to sign in and then scan that note-taking document.
Or you can take the easy route and just go straight to the email that I sent you the other night.
Yes, it is also in Marla's email that was sent yesterday.
Yesterday.
And then our online friends, Jessica is online with us, so she will make sure that if you have questions, she will share with us. Okay, is everyone online? Good to go? Give me a quick thumbs up. All right, I see some thumbs up. So we're gonna go ahead and see if I can. Matthew stepped out, so I'm gonna try to do this.
Arrow, right?
Arrow.
Arrow.
I had to let somebody.
Oh, you have it on the screen.
Oh my gosh! All right, he's back. Thank goodness. All right, we are recording. Just to let everybody know. So, no pressure.
Everybody put your smiling faces on.
So, of course, we are the SST5. We are your PBIS team. Matthew, of course, Marla, myself, and Jessica is online down in Columbus, and she is joining us virtually and helping guide us online with our online friends. So thank you very much. Matthew, if you want to go ahead and go to the next one. Our agenda today, obviously, our welcome and intention setting. We're going to continue to look at Dr. Bruce Perry a little bit and talk about some reflections that we can do in the classroom and interventions that we can do in the classroom as well to help better guide ourselves. We're going to do some resource share outs. We're going to do some small group shares. We are going to also, Marla went around and passed out some stickers a few minutes ago. If you don't have some, we'll get some to you in a little while. But we're going to have you looking at options for either a virtual or face-to-face open office hours type of session. And then we'll also be measuring what time of day would work better for you in the morning, in the afternoon, after school. Because we know there's going to be a lot of questions about the PBIS binders and evidence required for recognition. So we want to definitely make sure we measure that so we can provide the best service to you possible. And then we'll have our binder reminders and closure at the end. So our three objectives today, we want to meet and collaborate with fellow facilitators implementing PBIS. we have people from community schools, public schools, from ESCs. So please feel free, as we're networking, don't just talk with people at your table, but people around you also. We've got a great combination of people. Our online people, we also have people from community schools and public schools. So great opportunities to learn from each other. We want to review our last session's big concepts, and then, of course, look at resources to research and share with each other. All right, here's our quick check-in for the day. On the bird scale, how are you feeling today, right now? Take a quick look. There's some interesting ones on there. If you are online, please put your number in the chat. Do we have any volunteers to share with us how and why they are feeling the way they're feeling? Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait, I got to give you the microphone.
I'm thinking, can they hear me?
Okay, so they'll be able to hear you online.
Got it. Got it. I'm thinking number 9 because I survived ACT proctoring this morning and I still made it here. So I'm 9.
Congratulations. Feeling confident?
Yes.
That's great.
Hendrick, we have a 4 from Kelly and Kathy.
Oh.
Not sure why a 4, maybe they'll type that in the chat.
Okay.
Healing is a 6. And Jessica's an 8. All right, she's Rosie the Riveter, except for if Rosie the Riveter was a bird of prey.
Would anybody else like to share real quick? A 1. Oh, geez. All right, I got to hear this one. Go.
Maybe it's just, I don't know. One, I feel like I mean, currently for me, I'm a school counselor K5. I am managing Aaron's Law, rolling that out completely to my K6. I'm also trying to figure out my opioid prevention for this year K5 and then state testing. So we are strapping in for the rest of this year.
Thank you very much. It is a busy time of year for sure. Thank you for sharing. All right.
And Kathy, they shared a little bit more about the fact that they're just juggling a lot of things right now, but they're juggling it. Everything's still in the air.
All right, everything. Hey, it's okay to juggle. It happens. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for sharing. And Shelly, I saw you take a picture of that. I can always send that to you. It's also in our presentation, so you can just screenshot it.
Anything that is on the presentation is now yours.
Yeah. One of your people is a bird fanatic. All right. All right. All right, Matthew, whenever you're ready. Okay, so of course we want to check in with our matrix. We of course want to be respectful, responsible, and a problem solver. Be present with your full heart and your full brain. If you, of course, need to step out for any reason, feel free to step out. We're all adults here. We didn't really have pre-work necessarily. We always want to presume positive intent. And I think everyone signed in, so that's definitely important. Be an active participant, take care of personal needs, of course, return promptly from activities, and complete the end of the session feedback at the end of the session. And then seek clarifying questions. And that really is, I think, one of the most important ones, especially in a network setting. If you have questions about information that's being shared, or there is information that another school district is sharing that you are seeking more clarification on, please ask questions. And then, of course, have fun while learning. Okay. Today's intention setting. At the end of this session, I want to know or learn. So I would like you to take a brief 30 seconds and just answer this question to yourself silently. At the end of the session, I want to know or learn. And then to achieve this, I need to We'll try that one. All right. Does anybody need another 30 seconds? Good to go. See a lot of good notes going on. Okay. And remember, all this is in the note-taking guide that was on the first slide or the second slide. Click on that link and it'll bring you right to the note-taking guide.
All right, well, continuing our journey with Bruce Perry, we have another video this month, or this session, I guess. This time featuring the topic of regulating yourself in your classroom. So we're going to experiment a little bit, I guess not experiment, but we're going to explore a little bit of what that looks like, what it sounds like, and just sort of learn a little bit more from Bruce Perry this session about regulation, and then have a short discussion afterwards regarding some of the topics or ideas that he shares.
I think we've created institutional conditions within schools that are making it very hard for educators themselves to be regulated. And because of the third major point of the neurosequential model that we teach in schools is related to the neurosociology of human beings, is that human beings are social creatures. And because of that, we are exquisitely contagious to other people. So if the teacher, who is the leader in the classroom, feels dysregulated, overwhelmed, exhausted, frustrated, that teacher will have her cortex or his cortex shut down. They won't be able to be as present. They won't be able to be as regulating and rewarding. And it'll be really, really hard. And so the big message we have, and a lot of times institutions don't like to hear this, is that probably the best way to really help kids cognitively and behaviorally in a classroom is to take really good care of your teachers, is to make sure the teachers are respected, the teachers get regulatory breaks, the teachers get respite, the teachers get teams to come and help them. And when we do that, when an institution, when an organization, whether it's a school or a business, begins to appreciate this social contagion and take steps to create organizational care models that complement self-care models, then you see huge transformations in outcomes. And we have lots of data from schools that have done this. One of the most powerful tools that we have to regulate are what we call somatosensory activities. And basically rhythmic movement, rhythmic sound, rhythmic visual input. And, you know, I can just tell you this and say, oh yeah, do rhythmic things, it'll make things better. And that, you know, that's probably not that helpful. But if I help you understand why rhythmic things can make you feel better regulated, I think more people will sort of connect with this. So one of the things that we know from neuroscience is that during development and even after development, that the major mechanism that the brain uses to kind of make sense out of the world is to take all this incoming sensory input, and when it occurs simultaneously, if sensory input comes in separately into the brain, but it's happening at the same time with sufficient frequency, it connects things. So when you see something and hear something at the same time, again and again and again and again, your brain connects the fire truck with the siren or the dog with the bark. And that's how your brain makes sense out of the world. So your brain makes associations between things that co-occur. In utero, when you're a little fetus, your fetal body is sending signals back to the lower part of your brain, the stress regulatory part of your brain, saying, hey, I'm not hungry. because I'm getting nonstop calories, and sending signals back that say, hey, I'm not thirsty because I'm in liquid. And it's sending signals back that say, hey, I'm not cold. It's 98.7 in here. So all of these feedback signals from the fetal body to the fetal brain are that I'm regulated. Now that's happening at the same time that sensory input coming in through other routes, through your senses, the fetal senses are coming in this syncopated rhythmic way, basically driven by mother's maternal heart rate. So vibration from the aorta, tapping on the diaphragm, so movement from the heart literally moving inside the body of the mother, and then the sound of the syncopated rhythm of the heartbeat. So those rhythms and submultiples of those rhythms become associated with being regulated. And so as you get older, after you're born, simply rocking a child at a frequency that's similar to maternal heart rate makes them feel safer and regulated, and so opens up their cortex and makes them open for business. A little boy whose bladder starting to get more and more full, and he's just learning how, he literally starts to rock himself while he plays Legos because he's feeling discomfort and I want to finish my Lego castle. But rocking has nothing to do with your bladder. It has to do with making the kid feel better regulated because he's getting signals that say, hey, I'm full. And so we do this all the time. You know, if you ever seen Pete Carroll, the football coach for the Seattle Seahawks, chew gum during a football game, right? He's trying to regulate himself. And we all do this. We all have some form of pattern, repetitive, rhythmic activity that makes us feel regulated. It could be walking, running, swimming, music, could be needlework, could be art. And different people are kind of different and develop different preferences. But as an educator, the great thing is that you can start using this in your classroom to take kids that might be dysregulated and start to make them feel more regulated. And so if you start your classroom with 4 minutes of pattern, repetitive, rhythmic activity, it could be breathing, it could be, you know, you do a little bilateral movement, it could be jumping jacks, it depends on the age of the child and so forth. You could use a little music, hip hop music if you're a little older. But if you start the class that way, more kids are going to be ready for business. And then if every 10, 15 minutes you have a little 2-minute somatosensory break, you can reset these kids who are starting to get dysregulated. And again, these are one of the things that we try to use in this neurosequential model is help educators figure out what kinds of regulatory tools using rhythm they can bring into their classroom. We have schools that we've worked with that have gone from 500 referrals for behavioral problems a month to 2 a month. And it really is because the school, the teachers understand what's underneath the behaviors. They learn how to co-regulate rather than co-dysregulate. So instead of stepping forward and raising their voice and wagging their finger, they learn to lower their voice, step back, give the child a little bit of time and space. And I know that sounds really very overly simplistic, but you could, just by doing that, you can decrease restraints and critical incidents in your setting by at least 30%.
All right. So what stood out to you? You can just popcorn out as long as you have the mic in your hand now. So I've got another mic. Go ahead, Gary.
Thinking how many different kids I've seen over the years that are obviously doing that thing that helps them regulate. And you just think about them being annoying, whether it's their foot, whether it's the tap and whatever. So I have noticed it.
Yeah, usually I'm a foot tapper. It's like my legs just, I don't know, it's always going.
I think it's interesting to think from an adult perspective that we all have to regulate ourselves at times. And we forget that sometimes. We just expect the kids to be able to do something that we don't always do ourselves very well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a funny sort of I don't know if it's funny or embarrassing story, but like just yesterday it occurred to me, And the next slide, I've got a couple quotes that sort of pertain to this as well, but I had to chuckle at myself because I was thinking about like co-regulation, right? Like, how do I get my kids to model or mirror those behaviors that I want them to display? And the problem with that is usually I do that by, like when they start to get too loud or too rambunctious, it's usually like, hey, quiet down. And I realize that that's the very second that I'm no longer regulated myself. So it's very hard to sort of, model that or mirror those same behaviors that I'm wanting or expecting from them when all of a sudden I'm no longer regulated. So I guess I need to work on my own regulation skills. Go ahead, Hendrik.
Online, Madeline Baker shared how effective stepping back, lowering your voice can be. She's experienced it a lot. And I think that goes for really all of us. Like you said, we're adults and we need to be regulated also. And it's okay to take a step back and not get the last word in and raise your voice. It's okay again to step back.
Yeah. So what do you do? Because he does bring up a good point. It was already brought up since I asked the question, but what do you do to regulate yourself? And do you have the sort of self-awareness to know when you're no longer regulated? Because I think that's probably having that self-awareness is sort of the next level of knowing.
I used a method called the pause that I taught the students, and it's literally just stopping long enough to take a deep breath. Because I know if I'm starting to feel that stress, then that helps me kind of take a minute and think about it.
Anyone else? Thank you. So we always like to put up a couple of things to sort of make you think. This week it's 2, or this session it's 2. Co-regulation is a precursor to self-regulation. If adults are dysregulated, children learn to be dysregulated as well. And I've got no better of an example than the one that I shared yesterday with Marla. And I remember when I was in school district that I was in, 2 specific teachers where you could walk in their classroom and it was like you could feel either the anxiety, like the stress in the air. I immediately would get anxious walking into the room. And then the other classroom, when you walked in, it was just like, oh, it was just calm. And literally, like, one teacher never spoke to the students in a voice any louder than what I'm speaking in right now. And the other one, it was always yelling, like a lot. And so weren't the kids, which I think speaks to actually both of those quotes. So many adults expect kids with their still developing brains to know how to masterfully regulate their emotions, while so many grownups still don't possess this skill themselves. So I ask again, what do you do to regulate yourselves? Or what do you do back in your buildings as a staff, again, as a whole, to help all of your teachers regulate themselves or know when they need to step back and pause? Go ahead.
I don't know if this is regulating or not, but I feel like sometimes when I'm like feeling overwhelmed, I start organizing things like on my desk. Like I start like fixing the stacks of papers or like, is that regulation? Is like, I'm just calming myself by organizing. So that's what I do.
What do you do at home? Start cleaning?
Yes. Yeah.
I always try and just stop and do something like monotonous. So it's just like late email that I don't need. Or when I was still in the classroom, I really enjoyed just like decorating my door because it was easy. I didn't have to think about it. I just did it.
was like one of those sort of, I don't want to call it mindless tasks, but something that didn't require a whole lot of sort of cognitive energy. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Well, oh,
Got some ideas online here. So Jessica had said that I've been exploring more grounding activities, feeling, hearing, seeing the here and now for a moment. And then Madeline shared when I taught, she said I'd have the kids do jumping jacks. We would often sing songs in between classes. And then Leanne shared, I step back and take a deep breath and often tell my students to do the same thing. Many times I'll say to my students, we just need to stop and take a deep breath.
which, he talked about those rhythmic patterns and stopping and taking those breaks. When it made me think about, in one of my adult sort of work groups at the state level, it was actually UDL, it was the UDL work group. And oddly enough, being UDL, we would take 25-minute breaks. And it's actually referred to as a Pomodoro technique. And it's based on what anyone know what a Pomodoro is? Tomato. So it's actually based off the tomato, those little tomato timers. That's how it got its name. So what you do is every 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. And then after, I think 3 or 4 of those, you then take a longer break, like a 10 or 15-minute break. But I thought, what a great time if you want to do something like that with your class and you want to follow sort of a time schedule, that would be something to think about, or at least give you an avenue to do that. So if you're interested, you want to look that up, you can Google it. It actually comes up. It's called the Pomodoro, spelled just sort of the way it sounds. But anyone else? Pomodoro. Hopefully I made it to the next spelling bee round. All right, Marla, are you up next? That's what we did this morning. I was like, wait, without knowing what slide's next, I feel like it's a guessing game.
In reality, you have to remember that everything that we give to you is we're hoping that you can take it and apply it some other way. Because that's one of the things that our goal is to help bring more tools to your toolbox. We know that PBIS is about that framework. It's about that system. It's about having those things in place so everyone knows how you do business. But one of the most critical pieces is to make sure that we get it down to the classroom level. Because when we look through research, we know that your PBIS framework can either succeed or fail at the classroom level. So that's one of the reasons why we chose to really emphasize the whole idea of these 3 R's to regulate. Because before we can ever connect with someone, we have to regulate with them. Even thinking about yourself, when you're in a heightened state and somebody tells you to calm down, what's the last thing that you want to do? You're not going to calm down. Or if somebody says, take a breath when you're upset, what's the last thing that you want to do? Take a breath. So that's why we want to practice those things before we get in that dysregulated state. But after we regulate, we must relate. And then after we relate, we reason. Because the critical piece is, your scholars will do anything for you as long as they know that you have this relationship with them. So again, one of our hopes is that you take this information and take it to that next level. How do you apply this? How do you get to this classroom level? Because we all know, again, that make or break is at that classroom level. You in the hallway may see your scholars for a few minutes, maybe in a small session, but that teacher has them all day long. So how do we do what Dr. Bruce Perry said? How do we support them so that way they can support their scholars? And one of the things that I always say, and I got this from a book, if we don't feed our teachers, they'll eat the children. So that's what we're talking about. If we don't support them, give them tools, then we're not allowing them to be as successful as possible. So one of the things that we did for you the last time is talking about, as you regulate, what is a way that you can help a scholar regulate? Everybody can think of a scholar and think about a scholar that may get a little dysregulated, and we have to figure out how to get them to be regulated. So we talk about those ideas, and then we practice things to say. One thing that didn't come out in that conversation is You can't get better at something if you don't practice. And if you don't practice it in the right way, you never apply it in the right way. So hopefully this next information is something that you can actually apply and bring back to your classrooms. And I'm sorry, Matthew, would you mind advancing? So we did this in the morning. We gave a choice activity because that's one of the ways that we can actually differentiate for you, because everybody's on a different level. Everyone has a different interest. We have preschool in the background that's completely different than our high school people. Gary, are you still high school or are you junior high now? Junior high. Are you junior high now? Middle school. So when you think about that, we're all at a different level. But the three things to regulate, relate, and reason apply no matter what grade level. So we want to give you some choice activities. And some of these you have seen, but maybe have not gone deep enough. One of the resources that we used last time, we pulled all of the resources that they got their information from and started to apply them here. So you have a choice of either investigating, because you're the investigators. You're the ones that are going to bring this information back to the larger group, because that's one of your roles as the liaison coming to this session. So supporting and responding to students in SEB, social emotional behavior. Couldn't fit that on that line, so I had to abbreviate it. One of my favorites is not that I'm trying to sway you in any sense of the word, but is MTS in the classroom. Because remember, even though we're talking system, classroom is a critical piece of your system. Habits of an effective classroom. We have don't discipline hangry, which I really am very fond of because that happens to me frequently. We have a whole nother thing about de-escalation. It's not the same resource that you had before. And then finally, we have a really cool resource that we've always had out there lingering on our note page, which is called First Fives. Has anybody seen First Fives? I should make that a mandatory choice. In my classroom, I used to say, you have to do this one and one other, you get to choose. But I challenge you to go to the First Fives. And they have a primary edition, I guess I'll call them edition, or a secondary edition. So no matter what grade level you're looking forward, or even if you're working with adults, gravitate to the secondary one because it's amazing what you'll find there. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to let you find out what it is, but it's First Five. So I'm going to give you a clue. First, and guess how many there are there. And it doesn't take long to do any one of these strategies. And it comes to your email for free every single day. You choose to use it or you choose not to use it. But honestly, it is some of the coolest thing. If Jessica's online, I'm going to call her out. She actually even uses it in her household with her own personal kids because it helps to regulate them. So I think the next slide has our instructions, Matthew. But I see a show of hands. How many of you have the presentation on there electronically? Okay, perfect. No, that's not the instructions. What happened to the instructions? I get to make them up. So we're going to give you 20 minutes to explore. The first couple minutes is for you to decide which one you want to do. And in order to decide, you have to pop in and out of a couple ones to see which one fits your needs. But as with anything, we want you to have a purpose for doing it. See, some people are already on First Fives. They are awesome. You'll love them. Have a purpose for why you need it. Purpose for what you're going to do with it. And how will you move it forward? So on my watch, I have 1:34. I'm going to give you 5 minutes right now to just explore. And then my timer will go off, and then that's when I'm going to give you the extra time to go deeper. And if you have the note page open, you can either document on your note page, or you can just document on something that you want to document on. Thumbs up, thumbs down, does that sort of make sense? Okay, this is our way of hopefully differentiating our materials for you. So 5 minutes on the watch now. Hendrix, how's our online friends? Are they good?
Yep.
Perfect.
Just gonna share all the links in the
Very
chat.
good. It's funny.
Backing up through the history, although it's just yesterday. I don't have any. Through the app, yeah, but it's only.
3 minutes for your decision.
Huh? I wonder if that, what, it's on her, it's pinned on it too, right? No, it's on. Yeah, right. That's why, yes. It's through, you can, it's through the app. Oh, well.
Have an idea of what you are going to be exploring. You can explore by yourself, you can explore with a friend. And if you get done with your first choice, make sure you choose another item to explore. Okay, I have you on the clock for about 18 minutes is when I'm going to check in.
And Marla, what questions are they answering to themselves?
Given the fact that my instruction slide is no longer there for some reason, how will they be able to use this either in their classroom, in the school, and how can they move it forward? And we're back in 5, 4, 3. Don't look at my fingers. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so let's calibrate for a second. You were given a choice. And again, that choice was for you to be able to decide something that fits where you are in this journey. So that way you can take it back and take it to the next steps. We've been talking about the idea of co-regulation today. We've been talking about how to help de-escalate scholars. We've been talking about different things that we can put into place so that way we can create this environment of success. And so today you had 6 different things that you looked at or could choose from. You didn't have to pick only one, but given our time, we know that you didn't have a lot of time. So I'd like every group to share, which I normally don't do every group, but that's the whole point of a network, is because you might have a great idea that someone over here didn't think of, or vice versa. So this is the sharing of our toys or the sharing of our next steps. So who would like to go first? And don't forget, we do have online friends. So I really want to say thank you for keeping your conversations pretty low, because I know when they're online, it's harder for them to hear. But someone either online or face-to-face that wants to go first, what will you do with this information? Power's only good. Go ahead, my friends over here. Give me 1 second. All right.
Okay, we're gonna tag team this one. We each took a separate article. I did the hangry one. And you did the de-escalation.
I did the de-escalation, yes. So we've been doing behaviors, and we have a few behaviors where we've been talking about writing a BIP for these students. And in the de-escalation, there's a lot of training content about when to do those things and kind of helps you through that. But there's a lot more. There's on tier 1, tier 2. So we found a lot of important things. But then the hangry one kind of related to ours because you know, we were talking about a student who maybe doesn't want to sit in their desk or doesn't want to do that. And the teacher's battling that when that might not be the real battle, where, you know, take their book to them and have them sit on the floor and that sort of thing. And that's kind of, I don't know if you could expand
Like
any more on
the
that.
teachers are focusing a lot on the behaviors and not so much like the learning. You know, the learning can look different. It doesn't have to be sitting in a seat. It doesn't have to be, you know, completely taking the notes just like, you know, like that. So
Like so traditional.
mhm.
Thank you. I like how you guys take team. Anybody else do hangry 3 steps to a better classroom?
We do.
Oh, can I go there first and then I'll go to Sarah? You're closer. If I would have had one, that would be.
We did the hangry, the 3 steps, and some of us recognize that. We know people that you need to feed. If I went to related to the part, you need to feed the mom or she gets really angry. And she said she would recognize that in herself when she was also a teacher. She just retired. And she also knew that she was much better, more even keeled making decisions in the early morning when she first got there, or right after lunch. But the closer got to lunch when she was hungry. So that's just a side note. But this is talking about the 3 steps that we took it as a decision-making process. Remember to not to react, but to prepare ahead of time, have these decisions made ahead of time, what you're going to do, plan for as best you can for these different scenarios that come up in the classroom. And also recognizing yourself, what makes you angrier when it comes to responding. As a assistant principal in a building, there are certain things that I have to, when I need to do something before I react when I'm talking to a kid, just because they're a hot button for me. So those are steps that we took out of it, or we took out of it.
I so appreciate that because it is so true. You do have to know your buttons. That's very important. But I like what else you said is the fact that you do have to practice, because what you practice becomes automatic. And that's why sometimes our scholars use language that maybe we don't find necessarily appropriate. But you have to remember, if that's something that's so common, that's going to come from them without thinking. Same thing can happen to us. We have to practice the way we want things to sound. Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. So I actually took this as, I'm gonna try and implement this in my MTSS for my interventions and support, because I thought, why not work smart instead of harder, trying to implement two. But what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at this for data collection for the teachers. When they bring it back, look at finding an alternative. So you're looking at the behavior, looking at the times when the behavior is happening, and then finding an alternative behavior. But kind of going back to the PBI, the behavior session we had earlier, instead, well, in addition to making almost like a behavior menu for my teachers, looking at the universal challenges that they're seeing in the class, maybe I look at not only how to handle it, but different ways that they can handle it as well. So again, trying to look at crossing both bridges there.
Sarah, you said something about working smarter, not harder. That's truly one of the reasons why we give you these tools. Because that menu of different possibilities is something that could be very valuable moving forward. Because again, what I said in the earlier session, I don't believe any scholar comes to school and doesn't want to do well. And I don't believe any teacher doesn't come to school and doesn't want to do their best. But sometimes we can't do our best if we don't know what it is, and maybe we need that extra support. But thank you so much. Anybody else want to do the, oh, you don't discipline hangry, or you want to do
Oh,
another
no,
one?
I'm sorry. No,
No,
we
no,
didn't do
go
those.
right
Oh, okay,
You have the microphone now. It's all yours.
okay. All right, we decided, we were exploring the first fives,
Okay.
which is fun. I like that. It was a lot of fun, where a lot of connecting. I thought it could address a lot of teachers' personalities, where I think someone, I don't care what grade you're in or what type of personality, you could find something easily to implement. And what we thought of is like maybe even before like a staff meeting with everybody to do your rate your day, like at the beginning, very easy to post that up there and have fun and have conversation and whatnot. And then you would, how we would present this is give time like you gave. I think that's important for each grade level to kind of explore and visit each of these and pick one to use, or that they think that they could use with their grade level, and then share out and do it with each grade level and see how everyone does it differently. And then end the session with a rate your day now. And hopefully it's different and it's the happy, excited, whatever image.
I love that idea, and I think you have some built-in practice right there as well, but then following up the next time you guys come back together. So how is this working for you? How do you know it's working? How do you not know it's working? Who would like to share next? No pressure. I'm right here though.
Okay, so me and Nick also looked at the first fives and talked about maybe how to implement it at our building. We're in grades 4, 5, and 6, and we talked about at the grade level meeting, that's how we would roll it out, just show them the resource, tell them, explain like how we think it could be helpful in building relationships, building rapport with the kids. I like the idea of also using the quotes on the morning announcements. We do quotes anyway, so it'll be an easy take from this, put it on the morning announcements for all the grades to have as well. Is there anything else that
Yeah, I
we?
just thought, in the classroom, you could use it, our students have specials first thing in the morning, so they come back from gym or something earlier in the morning, and kind of all, jazzed up and ready to go. So, yeah. So, the first five, even the pictures or the questions, a good time for the students just kind of sit down, relax, have a little conversation with themselves in a meaningful way, and just learn more about their peers and just build relationships, I guess.
Thank you. Great ideas. There's a really wonderful mindfulness thing on the first five, usually even a breathing portion on it. And it's something that you have to practice to get better. Modeling even yourself as the adult doing it, so that way they know that even as adults, we have to take 5. Next. Coming to a table near you. I'm gonna go here.
So we did the habits for effective classrooms, because we've been talking about some of the classroom management, and like I'm an assistant principal. My principal is saying, like, across the board for her 30 years of experience, she's always had the third 9 weeks has been the worst for behavior. and stuff. And so it was just like, I feel like the teachers are falling apart at this point. And so it's just getting back to the basics and like even just taking the one component in there that said, positive greetings in the morning, like greet them positively, like start out the day and then track it. And I want to see that you're tracking it. And then I want to see the success or the non-success. Okay, if you weren't successful, then let's try something else.
Starting small. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with the idea of starting small. And if
Back it
you
up.
can start your day with a hello, that's powerful. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it really is powerful. Hendrik, do any of our online friends want to share?
Sure, anyone online, feel free to come off of mute
Sure, they want to share.
and we'll hand you the real microphone.
We'll share at AES. We like the first fives resource also, and we agreed with the other group, like, right now it's kind of a time where everybody's patience are kind of thin, and it was a nice, quick resource. Not, we give teachers lots of resources, but do they take the time to read them? They're a lot of fun. And Marla, I like your idea about the accountability. I can model it in TBTs. I could take an idea of the week. And then just see if we can get some kind of motivation and steam going on in the classroom. It would be a good way to end the year.
That's an awesome idea. Thank you so much for. I'm sorry. That's an awesome idea. Thank you, Kathy, for sharing, because it really is something that they have to see us as adults doing it as well. Okay, Joe? Of course, I always call you Joe.
Not at all. I use the first five also. We are doing a PD on Friday and I just incorporated it right into our review. We do monthly reviews on MTSS and PBIS.
Thank you so much, Jody. I think you're going to need to share some of those monthly reviews with us, so that way we can share, because remember, this is our time to share our toys. And I love the fact that you do it monthly, because there's always something little. It doesn't have to be huge, something little to bring out. Elaine, I'm going to come to you because you're high school. And I love high school.
Hi.
Coming to preschool. I'm going to go the opposite end of the continuum.
I'm not usually in this group. I'm filling in today, so this is all new for me. Yeah, we of course look at things a little differently at the high school. So I kind of looked at this neutralizing routine on the 3 steps article, just about that concept of like dealing with something later. And I do full inclusion, so I'm always in someone else's classroom, so I kind of get to see a lot of different teaching styles. So I feel like the 9th graders, like that proximity idea is a huge thing. Just like move over there and then they'll stop, and then like the older kids, sometimes you just have to tell them like, I'll talk to you after class, and just seeing the way that different teachers handle that, I think could be shared out more frequently. And then other people would see how those, you're not that you're ignoring that behavior, but just finding a time to deal with it in a more less escalating type scenario, I guess.
And that's a beautiful thing, that the majority of them already have structures in place by way of TBTs or teacher-based or PLCs. So being able to bring some of these strategies, some of these possible interventions right into that meeting and say, hey, I learned about this. Let's try this. Emily, what are you thinking for preschool?
So I went a different route with this. I'm thinking about one of my teachers who's been out since the end of January. Struggling. She's used to having older kids. This year she has a lot of the 3-year-olds, so a lot of the babies. But she's been out, and I know when she comes back, we're going to have a lot of work to do, especially getting her readjusted back in the classroom, getting the students back on track. So within the PBIS, or I'm sorry, MTSS in the classroom, there is an action plan in the back of it. So I think to help the conversations start, I'm going to work on that with her and try to figure out where she's at, what she needs in support from me, and then go from there.
Thank you. Remember, PBIS is really about multifacets. It's about being preventative, because when we can set up our environment for success, we're more successful. It's about being responsive, because sometimes even our best first attempt doesn't hit everyone. So therefore we have to be responsive and layer in another type of a strategy or additional strategies. Thinking about tier 2 as being additional time teaching, additional time giving feedback, additional time practicing. And then when we think, sometimes we even have to go further, which is that tier 3 supports. So I know I didn't hear from everyone, but I'm being told that our timer is ticking. So just out of curiosity, thumbs up or thumbs down, was this type of a choice activity helpful? It doesn't hurt our feelings, but it tells us whether or not we're hitting the mark or not hitting the mark. Okay. All right, thank you. So anyone else from online, Hendrik? Okay, we have a quiet group online. So the last part that we wanted to do was really sort of like about binder reminders. We've been calling them binder reminders ever since we had to do those wonderful binders when you applied for recognition. And it's hard to get away from that, probably because it rhymes and it sounds good and the brain likes patterns and the brain likes rhythms. So what we wanted to just share is just a little piece about those updates. One, all of the intent to apply that we have received, they have now closed. That was a deadline of the end of the month. And all of our schools that have applied should have received their folders. What we are hoping to do, because we were really sad when we learned in April, we don't get to work with you guys. I know, we felt worse than that. We didn't realize that. So what we want to do is we want to do some sort of work session, network session. And what we need to do is we need your help in determining what would work best for us. And I know not everyone in this room is applying, but I think a lot of you are. So we want to make sure that we're providing you the support that you need. So before the end of our session, which is in now 14 minutes, or before you leave our room, I've given you 2 dots. Could you tell us if you would prefer virtual or if you would prefer face-to-face? And if you were mixed, I'll be okay if you put it on the middle of the line. We'll deal with that, right, guys? And then I need to sort of know, would it work better AM? And for me, AM is anywhere from between 8 to 12, not saying we would take all 4 hours, but time between 8 to 12. Would it be afternoon 1 to 3, or would it be maybe after school? It's just trying to gauge where we're at, because again, we know there's no perfect time, no perfect way, no perfect place, but trying to even give you some voice in the way we move forward. Because even though every single one of us talks about the fact that the TFI is your guidance document, it is the document that helps to move you forward. Even with that document, it would be lovely to be able to share ideas, ask questions, because in this room is the answer, and it's not necessarily from Hendricks, Matthew, Jessica, or myself. It might be from you guys. Actually, more times than not is from you, because guess what you do every single day? You're practitioners. We are now no longer necessarily practitioners in the same way that you are. So you bring such a wealth of information. But again, we know that we have the evaluation that you need to do, or feedback to tell us what we need to do to get better. But are there any just quick questions about the binders, the recognition, or anything that you have that you might want Hendrik to answer? No, I'm just kidding. Any one of us to answer.
Whoa.
Seeing if Hendrik was paying attention over there. Do you mind, Michael, if I lean? Okay. And I don't know if online's asking anything. And really, at this moment, you might not have those questions yet, but no, it's okay to start putting things in your binders. And as you do, reach out to any one of us and say, hey, can you look at this and tell us, are we on the right path? Do we need to do something different? Do you have any suggestions? Because the other thing, I'm coming right to you, Wendy, because I think you have a question. And the other thing that we've shared before, but I think we'll reshare it with you, is we have like what we call a launch pad for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 that gives you some ideas. Wendy, I'm sorry. Yes.
When are you thinking about doing this?
We don't know, between March and April, before May 1st.
Right when state testing is.
I wish we could choose the date that they They close. And trust me, we have tried to say that.
If we're going in person, wouldn't first thing?
Yeah. Marla, I have a question for you.
Yes, I
Can you
don't
hear
know.
me?
Yes, I
It's
can.
Kelly from AES.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi. Hey, my
Hello.
question for you is, so last year when I put all the information we had in the binder, I just felt like there was so much more that I could share within the links that I provided. And I know they didn't like anything linked, but I feel like some of those things provide so much more information. So I was talking with someone from another building in our district, and they said that they had just printed out that like behavioral information or what it might be and add it with the rest of the information that they uploaded. Is that something we should do or not?
Kelly, it's sort of hard to answer that without seeing exactly what you're talking or referring to. First, always stay true to the rubric that they provide for you. And it is true, they still do not want links. They
Okay.
will
So
not.
like I'm just talking about notes mainly where we're going over behavioral data, where we are going over certain resources, things of that sort. Like I feel like it's important to see it, but it's not necessarily in the notes.
If that's going to enhance your notes or your minutes, feel free to add that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Not a problem, Cal. And you know, we will be happy to look at your binder as we go along. You do not have to wait till the end.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, love. Oh, thank you, Hendrik. I'm just standing here with my mic.
Whenever whenever my students like aren't able to accomplish something, I usually am like able to show them a model to kind of see what I'm looking for. Are there any models available of how people documented their database decision making or like good practice in that manner that I could kind of put into my agendas? And I know we talked about this a little bit in the fall and we kind of brainstormed, but I don't know if there was any like concrete models to follow or a few different ideas out there.
I'd like to turn it over to everyone here because you've all taken notes from your minutes or you've all have documented some data conversations, but always just think about the things. And Jessica, by all means, jump in whenever you feel like it. The three things that I always encourage you to do is be really clear to talk about what data are you looking at. So, and not a dissertation. It doesn't have to be War and Peace, but you want to be clear about what are you looking at. And that could be adult data, such as walkthrough data, your SAS data, your TFI data. Or it could be student data, your discipline data, maybe it is survey data from both your students or survey data from your adults. Whatever it is that you're looking at, you want to describe it and the purpose of it. The next step is really that summarizing that conversation that happens about that data. What did that data tell you you need to do? And the final piece you always need to show is what are you going to do about it? You talked about this, like say, I'm going to use your example. You're not sure if we need to write a behavior intervention plan. So as you went through your decision rules, you talked about maybe he has this many DRFs, making this up, maybe this many visits to the nurse's office, and he's already attached to an outside agency. So looking at those three things, the team decided that maybe we need to go forward, again, making up this information, go forward because of the information that's presented. Again, don't write a dissertation, but be clear on what it is your decision has been.
Maybe like a table figuring what is the data of heading and what will it like a table. So one of the columns is what is the data, what's it showing, now what are we going to do? So if the evaluator saw like those three parts of the table, that might be a good way to show it rather than just summarizing in an agenda in the minutes.
I have seen it done that way. I have seen a table being done vertically, right? Or horizontally, or I've seen headings in the notes.
Okay.
So you're on target. Any other quick questions? Thank you so much. Please please, 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 thank you so much for all the time that you give to us and giving us the honor to work with you. We're here to support you. We are by no means here to do anything else but to help you become successful. So if you can possibly take just a few seconds to scan the QR code and provide us feedback. And then also, before you leave, give us some ideas. And even if you have another idea that maybe we didn't think about, just pencil it in on the charts. That's just going to help us make our decision. And also, thank you to our online friends for joining us. So appreciate your involvement. And Hendrik, it looks like you have our baskets.
Why do you go around and collect names?
Oh,
So if you received a high five, make sure to put your name on it. I'll come around and collect those when we draw some prizes. And we have our online participants already entered.
hi, Leanne. I see your question in the chat, and I think that I can hopefully help you by sharing with you that it's something that you can easily put in your notes. You do not have to, but our friend thought that it might help the people that are actually evaluating our information to see it in a chart instead of just documented in their notes. So she suggested a table that said what data we're looking at, what's our discussion, and what is our next steps. Did that make any sense, Leanne? Thank you so much for the thumbs up. Ooh, 2 thumbs up. Thank you so much. And then that next person comes up. Our first day is Trista from South Lake.
Our first winner is Trista. Congratulations. So we have a choice of, do you want them to get their prize first?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to come up, we have anything from this basket or this wonderful book. Or portfolio or expo markers. All right, and if you could draw our next winner.
Megan, from Strother.
Ah, Megan, all right. Come on up, Megan. Got a wonderful Where to Start book, a pocket portfolio, or anything out of the basket there. Okay.
Shelley Brown.
Shelley Brown, come on up.
I know it is.
Sorry. I like to organize.
All right. You want to pick one more? All right.
We also have all of the handouts as a reading.
I'll draw again.